Well, good morning. Yesterday, Sampaguita was hauled out of the marina and brought up here onto the hard, ready for 2 weeks of work. And there's a whole bunch of things I want to do, and I thought I would start by showing you where I am and what's going to happen. I've got some people coming early next week. They are going to prepare the underwater part of the hull and repaint that in anti-foul, and also polish the sides so that she's a bit more dirt resistant. I could do it, but it's a big job, and because there's loads of other things I want to do over the next 2 weeks, I've asked a company to come in and do that, so we'll see how that progresses. Overall, the hull is in pretty good shape. I know that she has osmosis, and I plan to do a big osmosis treatment in a couple of years, which is why I'm just doing a kind of quick anti-foul this time. But for a 40-year-old boat, she's 40 this year, I think she's in pretty good shape. She got through a full marine survey a year ago pretty well, actually, and so structurally she's sound. I do want to, my dad's coming down tomorrow, we want to look at this anode. It's pretty corroded, and also because I'm putting AC in, I do want to swap the anode as well as check continuity to ground everywhere, because when I do connect earth to the engine, I'm more likely to see galvanic corrosion. So I want to start with a brand new anode and then see how that does. I'm in two minds about the prop. I think I'm inclined to clean that up myself and then cover it in something like prop speed, or one of these really good protections against underwater crustaceans, etc. Because when she came out yesterday, before she was water blasted, the prop had certainly picked up quite a lot of growth. Otherwise, she's in pretty good shape. We're going to wobble everything properly tomorrow and work out if anything needs heavier servicing. But my gut feel is she's all right for another year. Let's go on board. Let's stop here. So one of the things, as I've started installing DC, I've noticed that my navigation lights are still bulbs and the wiring is pretty old, and I don't think that all of the wiring, I think when these boats were built, it wasn't usual to use tinned copper wire, and so it's just copper wire multi-strand, and that's got the usual kind of oxidization. So actually I'm inclined to replace the wiring on my navigation lights as well, because navigation lights are kind of important, and I've bought a new LED stern light. Moving up, I've left my fishing stuff out because I plan to go out in the dinghy if the weather's good, and throw the hook over and do a bit of fishing. So this is an old set of wiring, again not tinned wires, for an auto tiller, and I bought a new one because the old one didn't work, and I'm inclined to replace all of that wiring as well. This is redundant now, so I may just clear up old things that are redundant, remove connectors and wiring that aren't needed. I have bought an outside tap for like hosing down legs after a swim, and so I need to think if there's somewhere that I can install that. Maybe somewhere here under this removable top platform. There's the old calorifier, and that is leaking. So at the moment I bypassed it. You might have seen that in a short YouTube video, just so I can bring the water pressure back up and use the tap for the last few weeks. But I bought a new calorifier, and it has an immersion heater on it, an AC immersion heater as well. So that's one of the first jobs, is to take that out, build a new plinth and put in the new calorifier. I've also bought a fuel sender for my tank. Oh, there's that, can go off now. But I put a new fuel sender because there isn't one. This generation of boat uses this, well, once it was transparent, now it's more like translucent pipe to see the fuel level. I know the tank's about quarter full, but I bought a sender that I can fit on that inspection hatch, and then I can have a proper fuel gauge, which will be handy. Also, just about visible in there is my
galvanic isolator, 16 amp galvanic isolator that I put in a few weeks ago. That's also on a short video. So at the moment that's in line with the earth, but it's not then connected to the engine. So although it's been in use now for a few weeks, it won't have particularly done anything. But that's part of the AC install that I've already started.
Up on deck, not a lot to do here other than I do use a mini iPad here for my navigation, modern navigation tools. And so I would like to probably over here just put in a couple of USB chargers and run some new correct gauge DC charging cables down to the DC distribution panel. This boat is clearly a work in progress. It's a bit messy in here. In the heads, let me just turn on the light. Yeah, so I replaced the light just a couple of weeks ago. It's got a really nice light now, because again, most of the lighting in here was bulbs, not LED, and it was also drawing a lot of current, I have to say, when I was starting to install the DC. So I've gone for a really nice LED light. But this is a tap unit and shower in what is effectively a wet heads, and I would like, it all runs off the pressurized water. I would like to replace that tap, which is going to lead to some intricate plumbing in here. It's going to be a bit fiddly, but I bought that just because this is a bit crusty. At some point I'll probably replace the heads and the toilet unit itself as well. Maybe not on this trip while it's out the water, but I'll certainly measure that up and see what my options are. I've never tested the shower pump. I suspect that will need replacing, but we will try it out. It just doesn't work, so we will try that out. Here's where I am with the AC and distribution so far, that I've started, you know, like in the last month or so. So check out those short videos if you missed them. There's an AC panel which will allow me to select at the moment that where's it gone? At the moment my feed comes into the boat, but just goes, I'll show it to you in a minute, it doesn't go in through a proper install. Well, it will, so it will come in through here, or in the future, I'm future proofing it. Maybe in a year I'll put in some lithium and solar, and so that will allow me to choose my input. I do want to keep a fairly close eye on the current flows through the system, so I've got a couple of voltmeter and ammeters. I'm interested to see how much I'm drawing, and then I've got some nice things which will allow me to switch on my DC charger for my lead acid batteries, switch on outlets because I want to have AC outlets. This boat is in the marina a lot, so it's really nice to have plumbed in AC and not extension cables everywhere, as well as the calorifier immersion heater that I mentioned, so I can have hot water in the marina. So that's what the AC panel will do. There is a separator there. I've been reading all the regulations, and I'm an electrical computer scientist by trade. So there is a separator in here, a wooden separator, separating what used to be a cubby hole behind here from the DC side. And on the DC side, this is temporary. I'm experimenting with use of printed vinyl sheet over marine ply. So I'll probably run this. I was going to do this a bit more properly for good, but I'm now thinking I'm going to probably change it each year. So I'm not entirely happy. I've kind of followed the angles of the wood behind, and I'm not particularly happy with that. I think I'd rather it was rectangular. And also this was some vinyl that I printed for something I'll show you in a minute. But which is why it's a lead acid battery charger. But actually this is going to be my kind of DC panel probably for the next year, with fused and switched DC circuits, an ammeter voltmeter that I want to plumb in because I do want to keep a close eye on that. And the good thing about this is it will allow me literally to turn on circuit by circuit and see which of these DC devices, like navigation lights I mentioned, or maybe the freshwater pump, how much current they're using. So this is semi-experimental, as well as keeping an eye, this isn't wired in yet either, on my battery 1, battery 2 lead acid batteries, and a new VHF radio that isn't wired in yet either, to replace a very old original unit. So I'll go through the first install of that, have to put in the MMSI that I've registered for this boat and so on. And then with the right AC sockets around, we can get rid of these kind of things. This is a bit interesting. I don't know if I've shown you this before. So this is a little ESP32 with a temperature and humidity sensor and a rechargeable battery and some software that I wrote that's allowed me to keep an eye on the boat over winter. It's very simple. It logs temperature and humidity, battery state, and it connects to Wi-Fi. So here we're connected with fairly low connection, to be honest, signal rate to the Wi-Fi here at the marina, and so that logs temperature and humidity every hour, and every 6 hours it sends me the full day's readings, if you like. So I just get an email every 6 hours showing on the hour history of temperature and humidity, and it's allowed me through the winter months. I've had a number of kind of heaters on here, all running off AC, just allowed me to keep an eye on the boat, and I had a dehumidifier unit as well. And actually, I mean, I wouldn't say this changed anything. It allowed me to tune the heater a little bit maybe, but for peace of mind it was great. And certainly I suffered no damp at all, and I wasn't heating this thing to be toasty. I was just keeping it not below 5 degrees really. So that's what that is. Don't think I've shown you that before. The lights is interesting. I think so. The boat came with these kind of lights. They're plastic, they are LED, but they're very downward. I mean, they give a little bit of light directly below, and on the nights when I was out they were pretty useless. And there were three. There was one there, there was one here, I'll come back to that, and there was one here. And when I was doing the DC panel, and I mentioned I was getting quite a lot of current draw from the heads in the rear cabin, which had old incandescent bulbs, I bought 2 of these, and they're not expensive. These are about £30, but can you see how they've got a bit more of a dome on them? They are LED, but they've got a bit more of a dome on them, and actually that works really well. I've done an overnight here a week ago, and this gives a lot more lateral light spread, so I'm really pleased with those. So I've ordered another 2, so I'm going to replace this, and I'm going to replace what was here. I took that down. This wire is coming out because I'm experimenting with another version of an ESP32 computer called CYD, short for cheap yellow display, and I'll show that to you another time. But effectively I want to make a little touch panel to control a bunch of things, to probably replace that last ESP32 around temperature and humidity, also give me some lighting and some other kind of controls on a touchscreen panel. So I'm developing that, but one of the things I quite like to do is to then power an LED lighting strip along each side of the saloon, and that will allow me to choose brightness. It will give a lot more ambient light than these things, and also I'll be able to make it red for like nighttime sailing, and control the intensity of that. And obviously red light doesn't affect your night vision. So that's why I've had this out, and I'm still doing some experimenting with that, and I've got some more components on their way. I installed this, it's quite decorative, and I think it looks quite pretty. There's the new calorifier. This is all open because I really like to let it air. This is where I sleep when I'm here, like I was a week ago, and so when I'm not actually asleep in it, I tend to pull up the cushions and the boards. But obviously I've got a lot of my electrical components and so on, and tools in here at the moment. I did replace these lights. These are some nice LED lights. The last ones were flopping all over the place, so this place has already got some quite nice lighting. But I will, when I replace the red and green incandescent light on the front, I've got to do the slightly scary thing. Just get my feet. I've got to do a slightly scary thing. I've got to, can you see how the wire comes in and out the bottom of the pulpit? I don't like that cabling at all. And right now that red and green isn't even working because of the corrosion back behind the DC panel. So I want to replace all of that line with nice twin modern wire. And that means pulling through a mousing line through the tube of the pulpit. That's the job I'm probably most scared to do. And then it'll come down through and under here. So I will need to get under here at some point. There is some residual AC sockets and things, but I'm going to replace them all. Previous owner had put some AC in, but we had it removed at the time of purchase. What else? I've already replaced the pump, the freshwater pump that's behind here. That's a bit messy in there, so I won't show you that now. But we'll have a look at that later when we get the whole plumbing circuit how we want it. I replaced a very old cooker that was in here, complete with oven, with a more modern and cheap Neptune 4500 twin gas and grill, and that gives me a bit of storage, pots and pans underneath. But I've bought some of the kind of stuff you're meant to use to line this. It's just self-adhesive, but I want to do a good job, and that will provide heat and fire resistance against this side, even though there is a metal plate on here. But that will tidy that up. And then we're in the rear cabin, where I need to do a fair amount of work. So on a previous video, I showed how this was quite crusty, and I cut it back and I prepared the back surface because I do want to do some electrical stuff here in a minute that I'll talk about. So we'll get to install that over the next 2 weeks. And I may need to get behind the panel at the back for the auto tiller connector, but hopefully not. The engine is in great shape now after all the maintenance. Even yesterday when I was pottering around the marina, she started so easily, ticks over so beautifully. And I'll check all the bearings with my dad, but I think actually we're in a good shape there. And then this is the DC panel, the DC charger that I did a temporary install of a couple of months ago now. So that will go up on this wooden panel. This is my 16 amp MCB and RCCB AC protection unit, and so the whole system will be limited to 16 amps like most marinas provide, but this is close to the galvanic isolator, which is the other side of this panel here, and close to the shore power connector on the boat. As per the specs, it's all meant to be within ½ a metre. So that's that. So that all needs finishing off, tidying up, and I'm going to add another fuse right close to the batteries, even though that unit is already fused. And then I'm really using a microwave a lot, and I never use a microwave at home, but on a boat it's just so helpful for like heating a ready meal or something like that. And so actually I want to permanently mount that on a plinth underneath the chart table, to get my kind of storage area for shoes and things back working and available. So I've got a bit of work to do there, and get rid of some of the old AC install, tidy all that up. That, I think that is pretty much most of what I want to do over 2 weeks. Sounds possible, but as we all know, on a boat every job takes longer because I need to go and get a tool, so up and down off the boat, or I've got a storage unit the other side of the marina, for example, you know, where I've got a little workbench which will fit in the car, so I may have to go and get that, or I've got some marine ply there, or you have to pop to a chandler. There's one about 4 miles away, 3 miles. So we'll see how much of that really gets done, but if we got all of that done, then we'll be in really great shape. AC, hot water, AC sockets, get rid of wires on the floor, DC, all new, replaced wiring, good navigation, an auto tiller that works, and some extra instruments. I've got a water temperature sensor temporarily installed behind here. I would like that out in the open. There's no real oil pressure sensing. I think the sensor isn't working on the engine when I was checking its resistance last week. So I've got some choices about what I do there. About, do I want a temperature kind of graduated display, or do I just want a low pressure alarm on oil? But I need something. This is an old engine, I want to treat it well. There's no engine log, and I do want to keep an engine log, and so I bought a new RPM meter with integrated engine log. Be good to get that on. I've talked about having a fuel sensor because I do plan to do some long trips, and I don't want to be trying to read through that translucent fuel pipe to look for levels. So we've got a lot to do, and I'm going to try and video it a little bit more, you know, with you able to watch what I'm doing, whereas normally I do a lot of my DIY off camera, and we'll see whether you like that kind of video from me. There's a lot more experienced people like Mads on Sail Life who do this kind of work and are much better to follow than me, but but I'll happily share what I do and you can learn from my mistakes. I think we're in for a fun couple of weeks.